Well, it started actually last year in spring. I think it was kind of following when the deans had talked to us initially about the idea of thinking about independent studies, and it was actually completely Lucas's idea. He texted me one day and he was like, "Hey, would you be interested in illustrating this idea I have for a graphic novel?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, that sounds awesome."
I like telling stories. I write, and I wanted to do something involving storytelling. I guess I usually tell stories through performing or writing. I like to act and write, but I felt like a performance-based independent study would kind of be complicated, and I wouldn't really know if I would also have to write something original and then perform that. I felt like that was complicated, so I went with something to write, and I think graphic novels or comic books, whatever you want to call them, are pretty much like the best medium and the most accessible. Definitely think it's like a pretty universally appreciated art form. Like the seniors in AP Lang just read Mouse. Even the ones who don't really like to read, they know that it's a really good book, and they kind of have fun with it, and they're affected by it. Probably because there's a lot of imagery, actual visual imagery, that can get them more into it.
We kind of have a system where we kind of separate it by cycle, where once a cycle he will go to his mentor, Miss Kelly, with his script, and then they'll go over it, and then that evening he'll email me that, and on that same day I'll have been going over what I had done in the last group of illustrations with Miss Hall, and then that night I'll get the illustrations and I'll start on the next one, so it's kind of like a little cycle there. And yeah, we actually have been more productive than I even thought we would be. Okay, so this was I was really excited to do this sequence because it was a pretty funny, typical awkward dating deal, and I think I spent more time on this than I did most just because I got really into it, but I just thought it was hysterical. I remember the way he described this girl was piece of work. And so I kind of tried to make that as evident as possible. A little bra slip, a little just overall too made up kind of deal.
It's definitely a graphic novella. It's short, and it's pretty much just a bunch of vignettes surrounding this character. His name's Peter, and he's kind of a slacker with a heart of gold, sort of classic protagonist. I'd like to think he's also fairly layered or whatever, but I won't get into that. But yeah, I think I know him pretty well at this point because I've written a lot, and he's not too far away from an image of myself that I've had for a while now, and images of both my brothers and close friends, and a lot of mutual friends. So I really feel like I know the guy. I wanted to write, at least for this, about kind of a scene and a person that I knew. So it's pretty easy because I could draw a lot from experience, and I can also just kind of put myself in his place and think what he would do next.
The story is very much Lucas's, and I feel like I'm kind of in my own way like interpreting it, but I'm like the vehicle for his telling the story. So really the pressure of the story is on him, which is kind of nice because I don't have to be like kind of thinking of what would be a good plot twist here. I can kind of just like visually interpret it. It's just mostly entertaining because because he's a very good writer, and he comes up with very funny characters and situations. So every week or so I get like a hilarious new 10 pages, and I have like a nice little 20-minute period of like reading and like picturing what the panels will look like and the funny little moments. So it's made it like a continual exercise in suspense. It keeps me hooked. I think it suits the side of me that tends to not finish things. Because really most of this is it's well developed drawings, but they're still pencil sketches. So which is usually the stage up to which I'm very happy with the piece, and then often what like ruins it is when you start painting and you kind of mess up with like a color or a line, and you're like, oh god. So this is kind of like the ideal level of completion for me to feel like really confident about something. Which is nice, and and it definitely forces me to manage my time better so that I have a lot of it. I don't know, I guess sometimes I get into a little bit of like artistic ADD working on something for so long, so this is nice because depending on like whether I'm like watching TV while I do it or something, it can take me like an hour and a half to do a page, and then I get to move on to another piece of the story. So even if I'm dissatisfied with a particular page or like kind of getting bored with it, I can then go to the next one and have a renewed interest in it.
I would like to stress definitely how talented Avalon is. She is such talented artist. It is really, really, really cool to work with her.
So we've been sharing ideas, and he'll send me something that'll be like, oh, this is hysterical, this like funny person that you've decided to include in this. So we're definitely connecting as just like creative minds during the process, but I think that then also executing the actual work separately helps to prevent any creative conflict between the processes, because I feel like, the more like literal hands-on collaboration you have, maybe the more integrated the two ideas will be, but then also the more chances you have to argue. So I think it's worked out well that we've done it this way.